Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this evening. Thank you that we could gather together to study your word. And we thank you so much for that. We ask for ears to hear, eyes to see. Give us wisdom and understanding into looking into your word. We thank you, pray this in Yeshua's name. Amen. All right. So Exodus chapter 15, verse 22. So they just, hello, Deborah. They just came out of or through the Red Sea. So everything's great. Everything's just going fine. And so it's just going to continue on being just great and awesome. Oh, wait a minute. Oh. So in verse 22, things don't go so awesome, but in 22, then Moses made Israel set out from the Red Sea, and they went into the wilderness of Shur. They went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. When they came to Marah, they could not drink the water of Marah because it was bitter. Therefore, it was named Marah. And the word Marah does mean bitter. And the people grumbled against Moses, saying, "What shall we drink?" And he cried to Yahuwah, and Yahuwah showed him a log, and he threw it into the water, and the water became sweet. Excuse me. So this word showed, says he showed him a log. Actually, in the Hebrew, it says he showed him a piece of wood. Could have been a log, could have been a branch, could have been a tree trunk. I don't know. So this word showed is a word, it's called yara, and it's usually, when it's usually used, this word in most normal cases, it means to shoot an arrow, or it means to flow as water, shoot an arrow. But when you look at it in other places, it's used in the context of shooting an arrow. This is the only time where the word showed that this particular word is used. But it can also mean to point something out, or to show, or to teach, instruct. So it kind of has that meaning to it also. I got something in my throat. So there Yahuwah made for them a statute and a rule, and there he tested them. So because they're grumbling, they continue their grumbling. They grumbled when they thought they were going to be attacked by Pharaoh. They go through the Red Sea, and the first thing they do after crossing is they're grumbling. So he tells them, he makes a statute and a rule. And I was looking at these words, statute. So the word in Hebrew for statute is hok, or hukim, hukat. And a statute, the meaning is an enactment, properly to hack or to engrave. In Judges 5:14, I'm going to read a few scriptures where this word is used. It says, from Zebulun, those who command. The word command is this word, hope. So by implication, it means to enact, or laws that are cut into stone. So basically, I'm glad John's here. He could probably speak on this more, but it's a statute is something that is written down, it's engraved, it's like a decree. You could say the 10 Commandments are a statute, a list of statutes, much like we could say, you know, any formal document like the Magna Carta or Declaration of Independence, that kind of thing. So it's something that's written. We have the phrase in English, written in stone. You say something's written in stone, and that means you got to follow it, right? Some of the ways it's used in Job 13:27, it says, you set a limit for the soles of my feet. This word limit is this word hope. Job 28:26, he made a decree for the rain, the word decree. Psalm 148:6, he established them forever and ever. He gave a decree, and it shall not pass away. And in Psalm 148, that's talking about the heavenly bodies, sun, the moon, the stars. And so he basically, it has this idea of setting limits. Few other ways.
So right after,
Go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, so right after he throws the branch into the water and the water becomes sweet, then he gives this statute.
Yeah.
Why is that?
That is, what is that? Or why
I
is
said,
that?
why is that? Yeah.
I think it was
Why?
because he was saying, look, if you're going to complain, you're going to keep complaining and grumbling. We got to set some, we got to lay some groundwork here, you know? So he's going to
That makes
set
sense.
limits, like he does with the stars, with the rain.
Ah, yeah. So he's making boundaries.
Yeah, making boundaries, basically, setting limits.
Yeah.
Another one, Proverbs 8:29, he says, when he assigned to the sea its limit. So everything like the seas, the stars, all that stuff, he sets limits. And each time the word used is this word for statute, hope. Even in Job 13, I don't know, did I read this one? It says, you set a limit for the soles of my feet. That's an interesting one. Genesis 47:22, for the priest had a fixed allowance. The words fixed allowance is this word, hope. So it's something that's prescribed in that context. And in the context of something engraved, Ezekiel 4:1, engrave on it a city. And that's the part where he told Ezekiel to like build a replica of Jerusalem, build ramparts on it and siege works. He told him to engrave the city. Isaiah 22:16, carve a dwelling for yourself in a rock. This word carve is the same word. And so it kind of has a broader meanings, you know, depending on the context it's used. So he gave them a statute and a rule, and the rule kind of differs from a statute in that it's more judicial. Basically, a verdict, an ordinance, to be favorable or unfavorable, pronounced judicially, especially a sentence or a formal decree. It comes from the root. Well, this word rule is mishpat. That's it, and it comes from the root shafat, which means judge. Primitive root to judge, pronounce sentence for or against, by implication to vindicate or punish, by extension to govern, to litigate. Of course, we have the book, the Shofar Team, which are the judges. So yeah, basically, it says there he tested them, saying, "You will, if you will diligently listen to the voice of Yahuwah your Elohim, and do that which is right in his eyes, and give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of the diseases on you that I put on the Egyptians, for I am Yahuwah, your healer. So he actually gave them just then a example of his healing ability. He healed the water. He made the water from bitter to sweet. So, yeah, he's basically telling them, don't grumble. You know, if you do what is right, if you listen, if you obey, then you're not going to get the diseases that, you know, I put on Egypt. I mean, you think, what diseases did they get? They got like boils on them, you know.
Do you think he knew that they were, do you think he knew their heart and he knew that what they were really afraid of? Because I mean, I guess I'm wondering, I'm trying to see the connection between, so they're complaining, he does this miracle for them, he gives them sweet water, and then he makes boundaries, and then he says, you know, hey, listen, if you guys just listen and you do what I'm telling you to do, then none of the diseases are going to come upon you that I brought on the Egyptians. Do you
Yeah.
think he's comforting them at the same time giving them boundaries? Like,
Well,
I don't know. Like, what's happening there? Because he also said, I am Yahuwah that healed you. In my
healer,
translation, it says healed past tense.
this says your healer.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what the Hebrew will be 26. End of 26.
Like, I never really looked at that before. What's happening there?
Yeah.
Hey, Mike and Deborah.
Yes. Is this
It's me, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Hey. So in answer to, because that really is interesting, Deborah, what you brought up. So I came across Hebrews 12. It says 12, well, 12, let's start in 12:13. And it says, and make straight paths for your feet, lest that which is lame be turned out of the way, but let it rather be healed. Follow peace with all men and holiness, without which no man shall see Yahweh. Looking diligently, lest any man fail of the grace of Elohim, lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled. So I just was looking through some of my notes, and I just noticed that the root of bitterness defiles, but the tree always brings sweetness and healing.
God, I'd like to hear that again. Do you mind,
Yeah, read
Michael?
that again. That's there's a lot there.
I know. Could you like just like give us a little piece at a time and read that again? Because that was so important.
Yeah, sure. So it's in Hebrews 12. I started out in 13 because it talks about being healed. It says, make straight paths for your feet, lest that which is lame be turned out of the way, and let it rather be healed. Follow peace with all men and holiness, without which no man shall see Yahweh, which is kind of like part of Torah and the statutes. And then looking diligently, lest any man fail of the grace of Elohim, lest any root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and thereby many be defiled.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, because it totally connects with the word that you were describing about those boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think at this point in their journey, they're just right out of Egypt. So I think for the most part, Yahoo is being very patient with them at this point. Moses, I don't know so much. He probably got very frustrated. Anybody else have any thoughts on that? In verse,
Because then directly after that, they go to the 12 water wells and 70 palm trees, which to me is like a very good place.
yeah, no complaining there. Yeah, then they came to Elam, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, and they encamped there by the water. So that was I don't know if it was a short stay or it was just like you say, because they had the springs of good water and the 70 palm trees, but I don't know how 70 palm trees, how much shade that would provide for 2 million people, but it seemed like a nice place. So in chapter 16, then they set out from Elim, all the congregation of the people of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after they had departed from the land of Egypt. So this day, it's been exactly 1 month or 30 days that they've been on the road. So you figure everything that's happened to them in this month, they leave, they are confronted by Pharaoh's armies, and then they cross the Red Sea. And then there are 3 days in the wilderness wandering around with no water. So it's been a pretty eventful month for them. And verse 2, it says, and the whole congregation of the people of Israel grumbled against Moses. And in this case, in the previous verses, it says in verse 24 that the people grumbled against Moses. So we don't know how many people. It was some people here and there. This says the whole congregation, which means everybody.
That's fun.
Grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the people of Israel said to them, would that we had died by the hand of Yahuwah in the land of Egypt, and we sat by the meat pots and ate bread to the full. For you have brought us out into the wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. So basically they're saying that we would rather go live in slavery than be free and wandering around in the wilderness like this. At least there we had, according to what they're saying, we don't know how much, we had meat pots and ate bread to the full. And blaming, notice they're not directing their grumbling towards Yahuwah. They're saying, you, Moses, you're the one who brought us out here.
Of course.
And Yahuwah said to Moses, behold, so this is why I think he's being patient with the people. He says, behold, I am about to rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day, that I may test them, whether they will walk in my law or not. On the 6th day, when they prepare what they bring in, it will be twice as much as they gather daily. So he's telling Moses what he's going to do. He's going to, send the manna, the bread from heaven, and that they'll, on the 6th day, have twice. So Moses and Aaron said to all the people of Israel, so at this point, the people don't know what's coming, but they say to the people, at evening, you shall know that it was Yahuwah who brought you out of the land of Egypt. And in the morning, you shall see the glory of Yahuwah, because he has heard your grumbling against Yahuwah. For what are we that you grumble against us? Moses said, when Yahuwah gives you in the evening meat to eat, and in the morning bread to the full, because Yahuwah has heard your grumbling, that you grumble against him, what are we? Your grumbling is not against us, but against Yahuwah. So he wants to remind them, I'm not the one, I didn't sign up and say, I just want to bring these people out in the desert. I just didn't think this up. I was commanded by the one who you are actually grumbling against. You're not grumbling against me. And
So
Moses said,
I had some thoughts.
go ahead, John.
Yeah, I got a new mic and camera. Is the mic okay?
Oh, yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
You're still
It's
as
not-
beautiful as ever.
It was beautiful as ever.
This beautiful baby. So
He's a cool cat.
I want to go back to the other paragraphs, the other ones where they were complaining and they
Yeah.
want to go back to Egypt. It
Yeah.
just reminds me of like drama queens. There's no Egypt to go back to. It's got nuked.
Yeah,
There's no word, we're not going back. There's nowhere to go back to. There's going forward. But they like the drama.
yeah,
Well, and I just wanted to point out that that they were comfortable slaves, They wanted to be comfortable slaves rather than uncomfortable free men.
yeah.
Thought.
That
And
kinda
why
reminds me
is
of-
it? What does it mean when he says, so first he wanted to test them by giving them boundaries after the water, and then now it's saying that he's testing them again by giving them bread from heaven. Like
Well, he wants to see.
he's done the tests.
He wants to see how they're going to obey the commandments, that command. Because as we go on, we'll see that they don't
Oh yeah.
fully obey the command. I was thinking that there's that one saying, I don't know who said it, oh, it was Abe Lincoln, that people would rather believe the lie than be convinced that they believe a lie. They would rather believe the lie than be convinced that they've been lied to.
Yeah, that they've been lied to. That's
Yeah.
nobody wants to know that they've been fooled
Did
or suckered or anything. And that's just human nature. That's one of the craziest things ever.
Yeah.
We will do all kinds of things. Just you've been cheated, you've been whatever, and we'll go, no, never. No, that didn't happen.
Yep.
Didn't
Abe,
it?
I don't know,
Yes,
did
it
Abe
did.
Lincoln say that or Mark Twain? One of those two. I think it was Abe Lincoln. Could have been Mark Twain.
Samuel Clemens.
Where were we? Verse 3. Oh, more complaining. The people that said, "Would we had died by the hand of the Lord?" Oh, I already read that. Then Yahuwah said to Moses,
Oh, it was verse 9.
Oh, 9, okay. There we go, yeah, well, I read quite a bit. Verse 9, then Moses said to Aaron, say to the whole congregation of the people of Israel, come near before Yahuwah, for he has heard your grumbling. So this phrase, come near before Yahuwah, meaning to draw close and congregate because he has something important to say. Even though he knows they're grumbling, he wants to gather his children together, have a little family discussion. As soon as Aaron spoke to the whole congregation of the people of Israel, they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of Yahuwah appeared in the cloud. So he revealed his glory to them, and I don't know what that looked like, but I'm sure it was pretty awesome looking. And what their reaction, I mean, I would think would just be reverence and awe. And Yahuwah said to Moses, I have heard the grumbling of the people of Israel. Say to them, at twilight you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall be filled with bread. Then you shall know that I am Yahuwah your Elohim. So maybe he's understanding of where they're at. I'm sure he is, and he's being very patient. He's telling them, I've heard they're grumbling. They're going to get meat to eat in the evening. They're going to get bread in the morning. In the evening, quail came up and covered the camp. In the morning, dew lay around the camp. So that must have been quite a shock. I don't know if you ever had, like here where I live, sometimes during quail season, there's just like quail running over my house, stomping on the roof. And there could be quite a bit of quail running around. And they make a big ruckus too. But if there's quail everywhere, I mean, it might have been pretty easy to, grab a few here and there, and cook them up. This phrase, that the quail came up, it's a similar word that's used in, in 8:6, talks about the frogs covered the land. Here it's quail covering the land. So I don't know what you'd rather have, frogs or quail covering your land. I would probably rather have quail.
Quail. My vote is quail.
And when the dew had gone up, there was on the face of the wilderness a fine flake-like thing, fine as frost on the ground. When the people of Israel saw it, they said to one another, "What is it?" Manhu. For they did not know what it was. And Moses said to them, "It is the bread that Yahweh has given you to eat. This is what Yahweh has commanded. Gather of it, each one of you, as much as he can eat. You shall each take an omer, according to the number of persons that each of you has in his tent." Oh,
So-
and go ahead, Deborah.
Oh, thank you. So that word manna, remember like when we did the emet word and it was so related to amen, they were both from that same two-letter root, that parent root, and manna was from that root.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, so it's a portion of something else. Remember that the mem and the noon were like blood continues, so kind of like DNA, and then manna was the next word down, and it meant like a portion of that or something. That I think
Oh,
it's really
okay.
interesting. I was telling Ward about that.
Yeah. Well,
Is
in Hebrew, the word is man for manna. So
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what
it,
it said.
it
So
comes from ma means what? He's saying, what is
yeah,
it? Did you have something, John?
I was just curious, is like a minion, is that
A
in the Bible,
minion?
or is that like Yiddish? A minion, like 10 men, a portion?
so
Oh,
so that was in there too. That was with it too. They were all related. Minyan was a numbering, and that was in Ezra. And remember, and it was of that same root, all of those words. So manna
oh,
and minyan were all related somehow.
interesting.
Well, they got the mem and the noon for a root, so you'd think they would be related at some level.
Yeah.
So it is a real Hebrew word in the Bible, minion.
Minion, I've heard it. I don't know what it means though.
Well, like it's tradition that if there's uh, like Jews will get together, they try to get 10 people in the city, at least 10 people. And
Oh, okay.
it goes back to Abraham where he haggles God from 50 all the way down to 10.
Yeah.
And then he stops it right there. He says, if you can find 10 righteous men, a minion, then I will save the
Okay.
city.
So they, yeah, I have heard that about them congregating in groups of 10. I
Right.
can't really see that, Deborah.
I
What
know, I'm
verse?
trying. Maybe you won't be able. Okay. I don't, can you see it?
I
What
can't
verse
read.
is it?
So
Does it say?
not
Oh,
very
well, I
good.
try.
What verse is it? Oh, you're looking at the book.
It
It's
is
Jeff Benner.
Ezra 6:17. That's where that minion word is.
Ezra
Okay.
17?
Ezra 6:17.
6:17.
We'll look it up. Ezra 6:17.
Yeah, but that was the minion word.
We offered up at the dedication of the house of Elohim, 100 bulls, 200 rams.
According to the number of the Israelites, that number there is the
Oh,
minion word. Yeah.
yeah. H4510. Minyan. Wow. It's the only place it's used.
Oh, okay, for sin offering, yam. That's what it says for sin offering. Filet mignon. I like filet mignon.
So that's where that comes from.
Well, the lamed means 2 or 4 mignon, filet mignon for sin offering.
And then I don't know if you can see this, but that is that is manna. See how it comes from firm, kind, and sure? Like it comes from that.
Oh, is that in your
Mammon.
Jeff Benner lexicon?
Yeah. And
I'll
then this
look
is
that up later.
that portion is is this upside down or is this backwards?
No, I see it. Oh, I see
Okay.
portion, I see what comes from something else as one kind comes from the same.
That is the word manna there, according to
Oh.
Jeff Benham.
Okay. Oh, well, I also wanted to say, this is kind of a side note, this verse 16, in the Hebrew, it contains every Hebrew letter in that verse. It's just a tidbit of side knowledge for you. I don't know if there's
15,
other verses, huh?
15, 16
16 contains
of,
at least one of every letter in the Hebrew alphabet.
well, you've heard about the Zephaniah one, haven't you?
No,
Where there's a pure language, he will restore a pure language.
yeah, I've heard the verse, yeah.
It's Zephaniah 2:9, I think it is. The verse before it has every letter in the Hebrew alphabet plus the Sophites. That's the only verse that has that.
Oh, the Zephaniah, I don't think this probably has all the Sophites.
Yeah, that was the difference. This one has,
Zephaniah 2:9
let me look here. I'm sorry, 3:8.
or 3:8.
Zephaniah 3:8. For then will I return to, I've got this on my website, by the way. If you go to the Hebrew, click the Hebrew button. Therefore, no, verse 3:8, 7:8, 3:8. For then will I return to the people a pure language, that they may call upon the name of Yahweh to serve him with one consent. And in the next verse here, and I listed out here in every one of them, there's at least one instance of every letter in every Sophite
Wow.
letter. That's
And
the
that
only
verse
one that
you just-
has it.
That verse you just read.
The next one is Zephaniah 3:9 says, therefore wait upon me, saith Jehovah, until the day that I rise up to the prey, for my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. But it's just interesting that 7:9 is the one that has all the letters, but it's the verse before it is talking about the pure language,
Pure language,
which
yeah,
to
there
me
it
is Hebrew.
Yeah. So verse 16, this is what Yahweh has commanded, gather of it, each one of you, as much as you can eat, you shall each take an omer. And an omer is basically about 2 quarts or 2 liters, according to the number of persons that each of you has in his tent. And the people of Israel did so. They gathered some more, some less. But when they measured it with an omer, whoever gathered much had nothing left over, and whoever gathered little had no lack. So it's like maybe they got more than an omer, but they used all of it. Less than an omer, that's all they needed. Each of them gathered as much as he could eat. And Moses said to them, let no one leave any of it over till the morning. But they did not listen to Moses. Some left part of it till the morning, and it bred worms and stank. So I guess they learned very quickly that don't do that. And Moses was angry with them. Morning by morning they gathered, each as much as he could eat. And when the sun grew hot, it melted. So by mid-morning, if they hadn't been out gathering their manna, there was none left.
So they're failing the test of limits.
Yep,
Right.
they're failing. I don't think
The
they failed long, because just one day of having stinky bread will probably do it for you. Okay, yeah. All right, verse 22. So this is the instructions he gives for manna for Shabbat. Verse 22, on the sixth day, they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers each. So when all the leaders of the congregation came and told Moses, he said to them, this is what Yahuwah has commanded. Tomorrow is a day of solemn rest, a holy Shabbat, holy Sabbath to Yahuwah. And this is actually the first time the word Shabbat is used in the Bible. Also, solemn rest is Shabbaton. First time that's used also. So, a solemn rest, a holy Sabbath to Yahuwah. Bake what you will bake and boil what you will boil, and all that is left over lay aside to be kept till the morning. So they laid it aside till the morning, as Moses commanded them, and it did not stink, and there were no worms in it. Moses said, eat it today, for today is a Sabbath to Yahuwah. Today you will not find it in the field. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the 7th day, which is a Sabbath, there will be none. On the 7th day, some of the people went out to gather, and they don't listen, but they found none. And Yahuwah said to Moses, how long will you refuse to keep my commandments and my laws? See, Yahuwah has given you the Sabbath. Therefore, on the 6th day, he gives you bread for 2 days. Remain each of you in his place. Let no one go out of his place on the 7th day. So the people rested on the 7th day. So they are probably not used to keeping the Sabbath. This is the first time that the word is used, so it could be, for them, it's a new teaching, to rest on the Sabbath day. Being, coming out of slavery, they probably had no say in which, if they even had any days off, which days they rested and which days they worked. So could have been a new teaching for them. Kind of interesting.
And Mike,
Yeah.
so also in verse 28, it says, and Yahweh said to Moses, how long do you refuse to keep my commandments and my laws? I just have a note in there, since I'm kind of new to Torah. That was kind of the Torah even before Mount Sinai.
Yes. You are
So
correct.
basically they knew about the laws, but it just wasn't given
Well,
to them yet.
not the whole law. I mean, they're learning as they're going. I'm sure Moses knew more because he's spent more time in the presence of Yahuwah. But yeah, at this point, there's no document, so to speak. You know what I mean? It's pretty much just oral laws. It's also interesting that Yahuwah tells this to Moses, telling him, how long will you refuse to keep my commandments? He's not referring to the people, he's referring to Moses. So
Yeah, why is that?
we don't know.
That's a good point, though. He's not really referring to all of them, just to Moses.
But he wants to reiterate the fact that, I give you the Sabbath because on 6 days, you work on 6 days, You rest on the seventh day. And so that's why I give you on the sixth day, twice the amount of bread, so you'll have enough to remain on the Sabbath.
So if he's saying, okay, so I get that it could be like a y'all, right? It could be a you all, right? But he's still including Moses in that. So why is Moses included in that? I'm sure he was keeping the Sabbath.
Yeah. Well,
They said whatever Moses said. I'm like thinking it like he's talking through Moses to the people.
yeah,
So when he's speaking of Moses, he's speaking of the people, because they said whatever he says we will do. You know, when they didn't want to go up to the mountain.
yeah.
Anyway, it's
I
my
haven't got to the mountain yet, so. And
But
at
do you
this point-
think in verse 27 it said that some went out on the seventh day to gather, and then right after that Yahweh says to Moshe, how long do you refuse to guard my commandments? Is it possible that maybe Moshe noticed that and maybe didn't say anything?
That's possible too, yeah. That's a good point. Or the you could just be inclusive, meaning the entire. Because not everybody went out on the Sabbath, it just says some of the people. So there were maybe a few here and there. And but I think a big part of that is they just hadn't gotten used to the fact that, we rest, we don't work on the Sabbath. I mean, we all know that. Having done that for a while, each of us, they're pretty new to it. So, we give grace and mercy where grace and mercy is merited, I guess. So, but eventually, I guess they learned, because it says in verse 30, so the people rested on the seventh day. They probably after that quit going out and just stayed in their homes and rested. In verse 31, this is another first. Now the house of Israel, first time house of Israel is used, called its name Manna, or Man in Hebrew. It was like coriander seed, white, and the taste of it was like wafers made with honey. Probably pretty good. Moses said, this is what Yahuwah has commanded. Let an omer of it be kept throughout your generations, so that they may see the bread with which I fed you in the wilderness when I brought you out of the land of Egypt. And Moses said to Aaron, take a jar, put an omer of manna in it, and place it before Yahuwah to be kept throughout your generations. As Yahuwah commanded Moses, so Aaron placed it before the testimony to be kept. At this point, there is no ark or the testimony, but maybe he put it in a jar to reserve, to put it there when the time came. Take a
I got a
jar.
question. I got a comment.
Oh, go ahead.
Just about 28, verse 28. Jehovah said unto Moses, how long shall you refuse to keep my commandments and my statutes and my laws, the Torah. That reminds me of Yeshua. He's talking about Matthew 4. He's talking about man shall not live by bread alone, but every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God.
Mm-hmm.
He's connecting this keeping the Sabbath with his commandments and his laws, his Torah.
Right.
So every word that comes out of the mouth of God is Torah, would be obviously a good word for that.
Yeah. Did somebody else have a question?
Oh, my question was just like, how long did he feed them with manna? And could they have put
40
it
years.
in all of the years?
Well, it says later in somewhere down the line.
Oh, yeah,
40
there it is. It's right here. 40 years. You're right. Right there. 30 verse 35, it says it actually.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're about to read it. But at this point, there was no, the testimony is, I believe that is the ark, right? The ark of testimony. They called it the testimony, and they put in this omer of manna in there, along with the budding staff of Aaron and the 2 tablets.
You think it's still around? Like, do you think that jar is
The
still?
ark? Maybe it's
The
still in
ark
the
with
ark,
the-
wherever the ark is. You know,
Yeah.
people are looking for the ark, and some people think they know where it is, and some people thinks it's in Ethiopia. Who knows?
Qumran, that's what Jim Barfield thinks.
Qumran. Uh, it's believed possibly Jeremiah took it down to Ethiopia when he had to go to Egypt. You know, to protect it.
Where else?
Somewhere he hid it.
Oh yeah, and then that Ron Wyatt guy, right? He said he
Believed
saw it.
it's all where the Temple Mount is.
Yeah.
And Lisa,
I don't know. I think I remember reading something in Baruch about, and it might have been the ark along with some of the things from the temple, but apparently the angels came and took it.
Oh,
So nobody's technically, if that's true, nobody's going to find it.
not even Indiana Jones, huh?
That's right.
So verse 34, as Yahuwah commanded Moses, so Aaron placed it before the testimony to be kept. The people of Israel ate the manna 40 years till they came to a habitable land. They ate the manna till they came to the border of the land of Canaan, and almost a 10th part of it ephah.
So it's interesting here. It's like inserting a footnote
Yeah,
because they don't know what's 40 years. They're not expecting to be in there 40 years. Their intent was to go there like a
yeah,
year and a half and then enter the land.
yeah,
So the in general, the Bible, of course, is in chronological order, but there are parts where it's obviously, it's like someone is I don't know how I want to say it. I don't want to say it. It reminds me of Genesis 18, where it says they will be in the land for 400 years.
right.
So anyway, it's a controversial point, but it's just interesting here that it's like, oh, by the way, you'll find out later on in Numbers, I think is where they'll find out that they have the evil, they bring back the evil report, and they're judged to that generation will be in the land for 40 years.
Yeah. The total of 40, I think it was like the 2-year mark when they went to spy out the land. And you're right, they were supposed to just go and take it. And they didn't do that. So they ended up spending another 38 years in the wilderness for a total of 40 years. Chapter 17, all the congregation of the people of Israel moved on from the wilderness of sin by stages, according to the commandment of Yahuwah, and camped at Rephidim. But there was no water for the people to drink. Therefore the people quarreled with Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." And Moses said to them, "Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you test Yahuwah?" But the people thirsted for water, and the people grumbled against Moses and said, "Why did you bring us up out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst?" So it seems like it's getting a little bit more and more testy with the people. At first, it was some of the people were grumbling. Then it's the whole congregation. Now they're actually quarreling with Moses, and quarrels lead to fights and violence, and so things are getting a little heated now. So Moses cried to Yahuwah what shall I do with this people? They are almost ready to stone me. So he's fearing for his life at this point. And Yahweh said to Moses, pass on before the people, taking with you some of the elders of Israel, and take in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile, and go. So he's telling him, pass on before the people. He wants Moses to kind of make a production of it, like take his staff in hand, walk in front of the people, fearlessly, not backing down. Behold, I will stand before you there on the rock at Horeb, and you shall strike the rock, the water shall come out of it, and the people will drink. And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel.
So,
I don't know if all the people who were watching are just the elders, and they could verify, be witnesses. Go ahead,
so,
Ron.
well, we see, so does it say anything in here about, I was looking, that they were here for 3 days and didn't have water? Or was that in
That
the
was
other?
back at the beginning when they first crossed Massa.
Oh,
This is
they
like,
grumbled because they didn't have water after 3 days?
yeah, this is like, from then, this is like stop number 3 or 4. Few
Well,
stops down the road.
well, they're complaining right off the bat. I mean, after 3 days, if I didn't have water, I might start complaining too.
Yeah,
So I can understand that, but they don't mention the 3 days here. But in verse 6, this whole thing plays out again when Moses doesn't do what he was told to do, right?
well, this isn't that case. This is
No,
where
no, I'm saying it's a pattern. It's the same. He was supposed to speak to the rock, and he smote it.
that's later on.
No, I know that. I'm saying this. The pattern is it's an important point, because that's where Moses loses his ticket to go into the promised land.
Right,
And here he did what he was told to do,
right,
right? But here he struck it like in the I don't know where it is, Numbers. He struck it instead of speaking to it, and here he's told to strike it.
right.
So, and where is the rock of Horeb?
Somewhere near the mountain, I would assume.
That's that cool rock that's got the
Got the split in it.
split in it, I think.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of it. Yeah, cool looking.
So I just wanted to say, I've never really considered that before, but how interesting when you think about it like that. Like, these people were angry and they were ready to stone, like he felt like they could
Throw
stone him.
down.
And so then it says, like, he was supposed to go before the people, like you said, go before the people and take the elders with him. And so that gives me a whole different picture that I never really thought about before, that here's all these angry people, and he has to take his elders, and they have to go up, before them.
Yeah,
And probably, like you said, pass through them and get to that place. So, I just think that's a whole different level. And I really never thought about it as escalating in intensity. Their complaints became quarreling, and they were ready to stone him. Like, this is interesting.
So, to your point about the elders, he's not. So the audience isn't all the people. It's these elders, and these elders,
yeah,
I'm assuming the intent here is you need to take control of your portion of the people and
right.
not load it all onto me, like what Yethro tells them to do when,
Chapter, yeah.
yeah. So he's Yahweh's telling them to delegate here to these other people and put the responsibility, just like Moses. God's put the responsibility on Moses, and Moses needs to pass it down to the elders. That's how I read this.
Yeah,
Well, and my translation actually does say, it says, and says to Moses, go on before the people and take with you the elders of Israel. So I'm not sure,
right.
but totally same point. But
And there's like 70 elders. So that's a big group of people to bear witness.
Well,
Yeah.
the people are witnessing that they're the elders.
Right, and they're witnessing them walking before them, so they're thinking, oh, something's up there, what's going on?
Right.
And they're kind of standing together with Moses then, right? I mean, if they're going
Yeah,
out there
yeah.
with
And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. He struck the rock. And he called the name of the place Massa and Meribah, which Massa means testing, and Meribah means quarreling. So it's almost like he's saying to the people, in your face, you know, because of the
Uh,
quarreling of the people of Israel.
So it's also interesting. So where thou smotest the river, back to verse 5. When he did that, the water turned to blood the first time. That's
Yeah.
what we're referencing. And then he turned it back into water. I don't know if he smote it again, the river with this rod. I just like to see these parallels going backwards and forwards, and you can pick them out.
Because of the quarreling of the people of Israel, and because they tested Yahuwah by saying, is Yahuwah among us or not? Now, that's a pretty bold statement to make. You know, it's like somebody rises up in the congregations and is Yahuwah with us or not? You know, I mean, doubting whatever. Go ahead, Deborah.
especially when there's that cloud and the pillar of fire. I mean, it's like that's kind of
Yeah.
a bold.
So we'll stop there. Next week we'll pick up with the defeat of Amalek, and then on to Jethro. Not Jethro Bodine, but Jethro the father-in-law.
What's Carrie's friend?
Hey, Mike,
Yeah.
quick question other than the Beverly Hillbillies. Where is that? Please, what?
Verse 7.
Oh, yeah. So in 17:7, what is it? Masa means
Testing.
testing. And what's
Yes.
Meribah mean?
Quarreling.
Quarreling. You got that?
And then ask them about.
Because
Oh,
they were
and then-
testing and they were quarreling.
Gotcha. And then just for clarification, John, that Zephaniah scripture, what exactly, Lisa, did you want to?
Oh yeah, which chapter and verse was it again? Where there's an
Right.
instance of every Hebrew letter?
Can I share my screen?
Sure.
Oh yeah.
You see, so there's my website. You see it? Oh, I can't.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay.
I
If
can
you go
see it.
down to here to the Hebrew button, and then go over here to the Zephaniah Zep 3:8. And then then there's the verse. It's Zephaniah 3:8 talks about the pure language. And it's the next verse. This verse right here has every Hebrew letter and the Sophites. And I actually list them over here. Like here's all the letters right here. And I try to match them up over here just to show it. I actually did because I got all this from a database. I actually ran a database and this was the only verse that had, I already knew that. I was just verifying it from the database I had. So Zephaniah 3:8 and 3:9.
Thank you, John. That's very cool. I'm gonna have to look into that a little bit more.
Yeah, check out the write-up I have on it there. All right, stop sharing.
That's on the Living Messiah website, right? Your My Hebrew Bible. Can you hear me
I
now?
think John's muted.
Sorry, my Hebrew Bible. It's
But
not
it's
on
not
Living Messiah.
Yeah, okay, that's okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll pick up next week with Amalek. How he gets defeated. So let me pray and then we can close. Heavenly Father, thank you for this evening. I thank you for all the participation and just the discussion. And we thank you so much for guiding us and leading Thank you in Yeshua's name. Amen.